is now live. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to present to everyone. You're going to Good morning and welcome to 4D Trinity, bridging fourth dimensional consciousness through the unity of mind, body, and spirit. What is fourth dimensional consciousness? Fourth dimensional consciousness is us consciously choosing to live peace of mind. When we embody peace of mind, we are gifted mental liberation. Heaven on earth is us choosing forgiveness through every thought, action, word, and deed. And in this way, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, and creating emotional grounding for ourselves. Heaven on earth is us choosing compassion towards ourselves and others as a constant. And in this way, we tap into the almighty power of love. And as we together tap into the almighty power of love, we generate, we nourish, and fortify a collective that is in the world and not of it. That is heaven on earth. Are you ready? Thank you so much for being with me and with Will this morning. I'm so grateful. On this show, I have my first guest today. This is Will Harrell. Say hello.
Hi.
Today, our topics are going to include all the good stuff that you know and love so well, all the metaphysics of multidimensional healing and well-being. This is a spiritual self-help show. And so what we do is we get to understand the dynamics of who we are, not just as a body on this planet, but also who we are and how to interact and heal our lives, our minds, our emotions. We are multidimensional beings. As we align our mind and emotions with the truth in our heart, we are given way to sovereignty, to living a liberated, joyful, and blessed life. So before we fully begin this morning, let's go ahead and take a moment to say a little prayer. We'll call in our angels, our guides, all those light beings and ascended masters, perhaps guardian angels that we work with. We'll call in loved ones that have passed from this life, that are here to hold space for us in the highest and most beautiful ways, that we may gain entryway into understanding the great expanse of our being beyond this world. We call in all the love and light that is in this universe and beyond it, to fill our minds, to fill our hearts with its sovereignty, with its liberation, with its purity, and with its divine essence that is love and only love. And we'll take a moment. If you work with animal totems, call your totems in. I call in the whale, the record keeper, the raven, the messenger between worlds, the hummingbird, that which sings the joys and the nectar of love. I call in the horse, that represents eternal freedom, and the crocodile, the gatekeeper of knowledge. All right, welcome this morning. So we have, as I said earlier, a very special guest with us today, Will Harrell. And Will is a dear friend of mine, and I can't tell you how absolutely honored I am that you're here and that the divine synchronicities of the universe and everything that had to happen so that you could be here today is really, truly blessed. I met Will, how long ago has it been now?
It was May of so there's not this past May, but the May before. And I had been in a bad place in my life, and I was wanting a Reiki attunement, and I Googled Reiki attunements. And the first name that popped up was Tuesday May Thomas. And so I said, all right, went with that. And we met up, and it just so happened that we were living very, very close together and didn't know it at the time. But it was in the same complex. And she taught me to use Reiki to heal my life.
Beautiful. And actually, do you mind if I read the email that you sent?
I am terrified, absolutely terrified. I have no clue.
So when I have my website up, tuesdaymaythomas.com, and you can email me at any time with any questions. And I get random emails from people that I don't necessarily know, just like Will. So this was your message to me that I received. Hello, my name is Will. I have a long and strange story of Bama birth, meaning Alabama.
Bama birth.
Bama birth. Forged by the fires of professional theater, taught to be a man of love and light by my grandfather.
That's true.
A light worker, Methodist minister, Reverend Fred Fuller. Oh, what a blessing. Is he here with us today?
He has passed on.
But in spirit?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. From Montgomery, Alabama. I've been on this path of awakening. What is ENL?
Energy and light.
Oh.
At the time, that was my vocabulary. I was energy and light. Just love and light now.
Okay, beautiful. So I've been on this path of awakening ENL since his death 2 years ago. I have walked a path of healing, self, serenity, awe, fear, confusion, clarity, laughter, tears with a Z, and peace. I'm a performer, LOL. It's going to be more dramatic as a rule, LOL. I have been, oh, let's see. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is very interesting.
This is funny.
I'm reading, this is very interesting. I'm reading Will's email from the phone. I have it in my old email. And while I'm reading it, I'm getting a call from an unknown person in Indiana. So that's interesting how that came up. Those Indiana grids are connecting with us. Okay. So it's going to be more dramatic as a rule. I have been led to ask for attunement, and as soon as possible. Time is an illusion, so why the rush? Because the world does live with time, and I'm more and more confident of my decision not to wait a moment more than I have to. I know that I'm here in Palm Springs for a reason. I can't wait to start to work or continue. So I got that email, and I thought, my gosh, what a character. I've never received an email from someone looking for an attunement with such juge de voix.
It was so dramatic.
And so I was like, okay, he's telling me right away the kind of person he is.
Yeah.
And my guidance was to contact him back and then to say, okay, and this park came to mind of where we were supposed to do the attunement. And usually I do attunements in the home or at your home or something. It's all divinely guided. And for this attunement, it said to go to this one specific park here in Palm Springs. So we meet up in the parking lot and we get out of the car and we greet each other. And I think I asked you, I said, oh, you're in Palm Springs as well. Where are you living? And I won't reveal where I live and where you were living at the time. And he said, XYZ Street. And I said, are you joking me? XYZ Street? I live on XYZ Street. And he's like, yes. And I was like, okay, this is so bizarre and beautiful. And it ended up that park that was guided through me for us to meet was actually a park that you had a connection with. Well,
yeah, every day I have a staff, a long stick that I like to go and play Gandalf with, But I spin it. Ever since I was a kid, I would spin and play Kung Fu Fighter with it, and still do as a 35-year-old adult every day. But it was a beautiful park called in in Palm Springs called Gene Autry Park, and it's if you ever get a chance to go to Palm Springs, go to Gene Autry Park.
No, Ruth Hardy Park.
Ruth Hardy. What am I saying? Gene Autry.
I don't know.
I don't know. Ruth Hardy Park. That's the one you need to go to. But yeah, it's one I had spent a lot of time in, and the reason being, and I think I should just go into the fact that.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. Well, today's topic, the reason why Will is here, Will, is for so many divine reasons that I feel so blessed to know you in this life again. I feel like I know you from before. But is because our topic today, our theme, is we're going to be talking about crystal meth addiction and Reiki, recovering, using Reiki as a modality to help heal. So
that's really exciting. That's really cool.
Exciting. Yeah. Okay, so please go on.
Well, I am a crystal meth addict. I am no longer using crystal meth. Crystal meth might ring a bit bright in your ears when I say that word, and that's my own fear. Some of you might have the same addiction, but it might ring in your ears the way heroin rings in my ears. You know, it's like, oh my God. You know, it's a lot of judgment that comes up. But when I was here in Palm Springs, I was at a very bad place in my life, or rather a very challenging place in my life concerning drugs, because I spent every day looking for and doing crystal meth. You know, that was the day, was the search for and the doing, and I got in this loop that I had no way to control by myself. I knew that I had to stop it, but I had no way of really helping myself. The CMA groups, they didn't.
What is CMA?
CMA is Crystal Meth Anonymous, like Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I went to a few of those, and they didn't resonate, as we say, with me because I wasn't in a place where I could accept that kind of help from other people outside of myself. Everything was extremely dramatic when I was high on crystal meth. For that whole year, pretty much in California. I had come from Alabama to Maine to San Francisco to Palm Springs, all on a trip of spiraling down and learning, and spiraling down and learning and spiraling down, and finally ending up at the bottom of a very fear-filled hole. And I did not understand where I was. I had had what I had thought was an awakening experience when my grandfather passed away 3 years ago now, and experienced a peace and a lightness and a wonderful awareness of the world around me in a way that I had never experienced before in this lifetime.
Wow.
I still had these horrible patterns, however. Horrible for me. They followed me and got worse all the way through California. And when I finally was able to ask for help, ask for some way to help my life and bring myself back to the joy that I knew was my natural state. I knew that was my natural state, and to be in that joy more and more was something that I wanted more and more. So I came to Tuesday, and Tuesday taught me the Choku-Rei with the first attunement, and then everything started just to become like a blender. You know, she got so many in that 1 year. It was almost a year between my first attunement and my my level 2.
That's right. Yeah.
I went to meetings with Tuesday, Reiki sessions, and she helped me. She gave me a copy of her book, the Confessions of a Spiritual Apprentice, which is now re-released as the Reiki Apprentice, correct? Yes, and I love that book. And when I got that book from her, she gave it to me as a gift of herself, because she knows how cool she is. She knows how fabulous she is, but she can't be friends with everybody all at once. You know, Tuesday has to maintain herself, just like we all need to maintain ourselves. And that's what she taught me to do, is maintain myself through her book. And her book is a memoir, and it also teaches you tools, energy tools, that she learned while studying with her teacher in New York.
He's a great student. He has a great memory. He remembers everything.
What was it's a great book, and if it's important, you remember it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So when did you start using crystal meth?
Oh Lord, the hard questions.
So if you're 35 now.
Right. When I was in Alabama and I was turning 20, a group of us potheads, on the weekends we would get this stuff called meth, and I knew it was bad, but it was so far removed from me that I had no real distaste for it. I just saw everybody doing it. I was, we get high, and it's fun with sex. It's a lot of fun with sex. I feel a bit embarrassed speaking about this stuff, but I know that it's best just to come out and be truthful about it.
You're speaking the truth, yeah. Right. So for 15 years.
No.
You've been.
No. For that 20 year, when I was 20, I used it for about a year and a half, off and on, and then it fell away from my life. It fell away in very organic ways. And then about 10 years later, it came back into my life on a very small scale. And then I met a man who hated it, but I loved him. And for 4 years, I did not use it at all then either, because I was in a relationship and we just didn't want it. But after I left that relationship, it came back into my life. And from that point, it really latched on. And I fell deeper and deeper and heavier use, which I hid from my family and I hid from everyone, and I pushed everyone away because I was afraid of them.
And was that was the crystal meth creating a slow but growing tar body, as we say.
Right. And this is something that I get really, interested in, and because it shows you the power of the mind and how this is all mind stuff. When I had my awakening experience, and was still using meth, I was aware of more, but the things that I were aware of were not true. They were not real vision. My consciousness had expanded, but I did not have true sight.
I remember when I first met you, the tar body was thick and heavy. And it was after the level 1 that I shared with you that I realized that that's why the universe, the Reiki angels and guides said, go to the park. And because there was enough earth and grounding and natural elements to just help absorb whatever karmas were going to be released through your level 1. And it was a more appropriate setting. But I remember when I saw you, and it's the beautiful gift and the beautiful balance of, like what you're saying, when someone is bound by the tar body, is bound by their addiction, bound by the shadow that begins to embody and hide the light sight, hide their ability to see love and to trust that love is the truth. And I could see that had you and pardon me but it was like energetically you were in a Houdini, what are those jackets?
A straight jacket.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
It was just strangling you.
The image of me standing, hands tied behind my back with one leg in a boat in a pool of water with the mirrors. That's what I felt like. That's what's coming back to me again. But that I could not see past myself. When you get around Tuesday or any other Reiki master, someone who's been using Reiki and running Reiki for a while, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but you get there's this frustration that happens when you haven't come up through the attunements and you've got a lot of tar body, and you get fidgety and you don't want to be there, and you're like, suddenly you don't want to be in this place that you've wanted to come to, and put all of this effort into coming to. Suddenly you want to get out. And I would be fearful. I would, and because of the meth, the tar body could just spin me like a top. It could spin me by reflecting back to me the most horrible thoughts that I was having and projecting onto other people.
Yeah, it creates a deeply distorted vision, you know, and that goes for any addiction that we're in. And it's not just substances, it's addiction to those darker thoughts, to self-sabotage, self-hate, and anything that is self-loathing and limiting in our ability to embody true love and light in the world. That, when we give rise to that, we can become addicted to those thoughts too. They become patterns and habits and we don't even realize them. And they contribute to the manifestation of the tar body. And let's just review a moment. So the tar body is the evil twin, if you will. It's the, what I like to say, not evil, but the toxic twin of your light body. Right? The light body is that which is your higher self, that which is divinely and intimately connected to your God self. And whether you call God a higher power, the universe, source, whatever name you give it, right? I've learned to use the G word. I didn't use it for years until I learned, became a student of A Course in Miracles. But what happens is that when we allow toxic thoughts, okay, let me start here. The tar body is fed by not just the foods we eat. If we eat in a toxic diet constantly, then it's going to start to create a layer of toxins in the body. And we know this. That's why we'll go and we'll juice for a few days. We'll do a detox. We'll lay off caffeine, cigarettes, or wine, or whatever our thing is, so we can sort of regenerate and clear. And I've heard some people say, you know, detox to retox, which is kind of funny. But you know, when you're in a situation where that tar body begins to build more and more, we have not only the foods that we eat, but we have those emotional passages of painful memory and experience that we've had in the past. And when those issues are not given the correct conditions for healing to happen and for those areas to be transformed, what happens is, as we know, if you have stuff, is that those emotions, they go with you, those memories go with you everywhere you go. And so if we're not eating correctly and we have a whole bunch of baggage of emotional stuff that goes with us wherever we go, well, we start to get this beautiful mixture. And then not only is it it's said to be in the environment, it's just the stuff in the food we eat, right? It's how we eat what we eat, and with the emotional patterns. Like for years, I had addiction to food to comfort myself, and that was an issue. That every time I ate, I was feeding myself not only with probably inappropriate foods that weren't nourishing my light body, but I was also hating myself and self-deprecating and saying self-loathing, self-destructive things to myself while I was eating, which was just feeding this dark part of me, this shadow part of me, more and more and more. So it's the drugs that we take, it's the foods, it's the thoughts that we entertain. You know, look at your diet of how you think about yourself in the world and others. And it's those emotions that we carry around. And what happens is, over time, if we're not developing practices that allow us to not only transform, heal, and ultimately excise those aspects out of our lives, is that tar body becomes a shadow that walks with us wherever we go. And it infiltrates our vision, it infiltrates our words. And I think that's what you were saying, and that's what I recognized in you, is when I saw Will, I was like, okay, we got a double bumper here of tar body stuff. And how beautiful and amazing, though, that through it all, you were able to, that fine point of light, to stay focused on that light and to choose light, even amongst the heavy, murky, like molasses thick mud that tar can sometimes be. Because what happens is, it will, as we continue to feed it and we don't bring the light in, we don't call on the love and the light and do any little practice to bring us back to the light, is that tar body takes the driving wheel and it begins to mess with our minds. And it starts to tell us that it's the truth, that fear-based thinking, fear-based living is the truth, and that everyone out there is against us, and that we need to be afraid of everyone else and everything else and ourselves. And there's no peace and there's no safety.
It's the biggest lie of all, is that you have to be afraid of anyone else.
Yes, thank you. And so it becomes that straitjacket. So then all of a sudden you're confined to living in this really dire world of fear. And ultimately the tar body wants to kill us. And I know that sounds dramatic, but ultimately that's where it's going. Yet it does have, it loves taking us down slowly and strangling us slowly. And it sounds bizarre, but if you've ever been wrapped up in the darkness of your own mind, emotions, depression, addiction, all this stuff on any level, then you know what I'm talking about. It's where you feel strangled and you can't get out. Yet light and love is the truth. And it's always present. And if we just turn our attention to it and say yes to it and choose it, right, then that light all of a sudden becomes brighter, and the dark has less of a chance to grow in that light. Yet the more light, especially where there's a lot of tar, the more light we begin to call in. Well, the tar is like it's got its hold in us. And imagine your body as a petri dish. And all of this tar, all of these emotions, all this gunk or this stuff or these chemicals or these substances that have built up in our system, not only physically, but energetically, emotionally, mentally, right? And in our psyche, all that stuff has made a very nice home in our physical body and in all those layers of our multidimensional bodies. And so when we start to put the light in and get Reiki attuned or start receiving healing and stuff, that tar is like, this is my home. I drive this castle. And then there becomes this almost this tug where you got to really, depending on the density of the tar, you have to fight for your life. And that's really where the warrior aspect comes in. And I'll go into this in later live streams, because ultimately we learn how to be a warrior. We learn how to face our shadows down. We learn how to choose love over and over again and develop our spiritual will in that way. Yet ultimately, there is a point where we don't have to be a warrior anymore, where we don't have to live in fighting that tar body down. But it is a part of the initiation and the apprenticeship that I've experienced and that I teach by way of coming into that peace of mind, coming into a peaceful place. Because when the tar body has taken over, there is no peace of mind.
No.
Right. So I want to just go back and ask you, where did you first hear of Reiki? Had you ever received a Reiki attunement, or a Reiki session, or where did it come?
Yes, and funnily enough, my first Reiki session was at a gathering of people using drugs and having sex, and it was in New Jersey, administered by a person who now lives here.
Whoa. On the same street you're saying here?
No. Okay. No. Just a little bit further. Okay. Just a little bit further. However,
wow.
My second experience that was it was mind-blowing, because I had a lot of tar to move. And if you've ever had one of those mind-blowing Reiki experiences, they don't happen a lot. They don't happen a lot, and it's never, as Tuesday says, it's never the person who's sharing the Reiki. It's always the person who's receiving the Reiki who's allowing this. And I had a wonderful friend who helped me mentally to allow what was going on. And that session I always think about, because it was healing so much, and I saw shafts of light and just energy flowing through, and it was that blissful, goosebumpy feeling that we all love, you know.
And you never saw shafts of light before, or anything?
I had never seen shafts of light before, and it was like chings. It was coming up against tars, and you know, and it's hard to explain in a meaningful way, other than it was meaningful for me at the time.
Powerful.
Right.
Powerful.
That second person, is now living down the street.
Whoa.
This was in Maine. I knew this place.
Bizarre. Is it the person who I think it's the person?
No.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's another. Isn't this amazing? This little knit, these grids right here.
This Reiki grids, yes.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. Wow.
These mountains are powerful.
Yes, these mm-hmm. mountains out here in the desert. So, if you will, I just want to backtrack. So your first Reiki experience, I know you said there was sex and drugs. So how did that work? And of course, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say, but
I will be extremely blunt.
Okay.
Okay. Sex and drugs, you mean?
Like you said, your first.
How did I
Reiki,
use, or what?
Well, you were saying that you had those two Reiki experiences.
Right.
The first one was in New Jersey, and there was sex and drugs involved.
Right. It was at a gathering of friends, and there was sex and drugs involved. You know, there is a lot of places. You know, not just meth. There's sex and drugs going on all over the place. In fact, my book, A book that I'm going to write is going to be called Sex, Drugs, and Musical Theater. Just right. That is my memoir.
I love it. But how did the Reiki, how was that a part of that?
Naturally and organically, from a man who was very, who knew himself very well and was very centered in himself and had no qualms about sharing it, you know?
So while people were having sex and doing drugs?
In rooms, other way. This not.
Someone was laying hands? I guess I just want to get a picture like how it was working.
In the green room. In the sex green room, let's say, or which was the living room, where we're all sitting around talking, you know, and we're having conversations. And that was always my thing, was to, my friend used to say, Will, you could screw up a wet dream. Because I would bring topics like this into situations like that, when they don't really all the time mesh, unless you've got another person who's open to it. And we were having that kind of conversation, a very spiritual conversation. And he said, well, have you ever had a Reiki session? And his way of showing me Reiki was actually a lot different than other ways. And I have now found out that he's been attuned to the second level. And his Reiki, it doesn't really matter how he explained it to me. What matters is what I felt when I was having the session, what I allowed while I was having the session. And what it meant was my mind opening up to the prospect that the wall that I had come up to spiritually was not a wall, and it was not the ending point. I had lived in complacency spiritually, thinking, okay, well, I believe in God, you know, and okay, I feel that love in my heart. And yes, this love I have for my family is that love of God. I'd come to that point, but there was no going past that for me until Reiki opened this whole world of very confusing multidimensionality and the world of modalities and New Age, the New Age.
Wow.
New Age thinking.
And that all started from these first two Reiki experiences you had.
I had my awakening experience when my grandfather died. I had the Reiki experience after that, and in between, I was writing. I was doing these amazing leaps and bounds in my career as an actor and a performer and playwright. And I had become a part of the Actors Union. I had written my first musical and produced that musical professionally, and all these great things were going on, and all this info and stuff was really, you know, I look back at it now, it's like, where did that come from? And all the things I wrote, I look back at it, I was like, that is so me now. That is so me now. You know, all these energy tools and all these lessons from the now that I'm reading back then. And I didn't take it in then, you know, it didn't resonate that way. And I'm gotten rabbit hole. I've tangented off.
Okay,
so,
but that has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And then so cut to, you're guided to find someone to help you with your level one.
Right.
We meet.
You
get your level one. And so what experience was that like, sitting with that level one, especially in conjunction, knowing that you were dealing with your addiction? Were you getting attuned to help you resolve your addiction, or what was your intention, or what was the call from your heart? Why did you want to be attuned?
Reiki had spoken to me through each, especially just before I came to California. That was with my friend who is now just down the street. Reiki, I believe, called me to California in that way. You gave me the level one attunement with the Choku Ray, and my life instantly became better, and everything. No, that's not right.
I was like, wow.
Of course.
Everyone's like, sign me up.
Yes, you should. But it is wonderful, and yes, a peace was instantly felt. But it's not all wine and roses, you know. Once you get that level one, what you're doing is setting up the true mirror to reflect that back, so you can see the mirrors that you've been seeing and go, oh, and then you start to hold that vibration of love more and more constantly and consciously with every breath. And you think now is like, with every breath, I can't do that. But then, you know, you just baby steps until it's just, you're on top of that wave, you know, and you sit on top of that wave, and then you can do your level 2.
Yeah, no, it becomes natural.
Mhm.
It's true. Where there was no love before, and you learn how to embody that, and it becomes less uncomfortable, because it can be uncomfortable at first when we're breaking down TARs and going through, you know, just all sorts of mental and emotional trauma, healing physical ailments in the body. There's issues in the tissues, and those things come up to be healed, but we learn how to place our hands on, and just receiving that symbol or those symbols, depending on the attunement, into our being, help us. That it gives us a means and a way. What I like, for me personally, it was like about like just disbanding being a victim and putting power back into my hands, activating the medicine in my hands and in my multidimensional being, and learning that I could practice self-love, which was the hardest thing when we've been living in a way of self-hate and self-loathing, and that becomes the norm, and we don't even recognize that that has become the norm. And then, as you say, we get attuned, we start to learn, or just any sort of spiritual practice that turns us on to the love, turns us on to the light. We begin to see, as you said, that clear mirror, and all those other mirrors of the darkness of the shadow. We're like, ooh, man, I've been walking with all this heavy bevy. And the Reiki gives us an opportunity then, in a very conscious way, to participate in healing our lives, in healing our minds, our bodies, our emotions, so that we can become as one with our light body. I believe that the light body is the spirit, is the soul of us, and that it is always perfect. Right? I do not believe that anyone can take your soul. I do not believe that your soul can become cracked or fissured, nor your spirit, right? It is always one. And as we learn these spiritual practices and attune ourselves into those frequencies of love and light, that love and that light infiltrates, in a way, for lack of a better word, into all those nooks and crannies. And it creates a different environment in us that is ultimately, that was always there, that is always here, the truth that is that you are love, and that love is the truth. And as we begin to allow ourselves to align with that truth more and more, well, the tar body, it's like the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz. It's like she's melting. It's like it can't, there's a certain point where it can't hold on anymore. It cannot be embodied in your body mind dynamic the more love and light you bring in. And then we hit the tipping point where love is greater in us than the dark, than the fear. And then we begin to, it's a learning curve. You begin to learn how to walk in love and trust in love, and really loving ourselves first. So later you were guided to receive your level 2. And how was your level 2? What sort of stuff with regard to the crystal meth addiction? Because you were using the whole way through your level 1.
All the way through the level 1. But I did, as I came to you, I was making that conscious decision to slow down. And it's not something that you can stop and be okay.
The addiction?
The addiction, yes. Well, because you go to sleep for a week. When you're on a heavy crystal meth addiction and use and you stop cold turkey, your body completely has to shut down, remetabolize, and then you can boot up again. With the level 2, I was so at peace. I was so going into it. Like me and Tuesday we were going to A Course in Miracles, you know, and I was still having troubles in my life, but I was working them out, you know, and I was seeing that, okay, all of these walls that I see are just walls that I have to jump or break through each time. So each wall I see, so I'd gone on a walkabout, and I had actually cleaned up. I had gone out to sober up, so I walked from Carlsbad, California, because I thought I was going to see. I went to Carlsbad because I thought I was going to see, what's his name? Deepak Chopra at the Chopra Center, and walked down to San Diego. And along that, I had an amazing experience full of heightened awareness. And
oh, will you remember where we're at? I
Sure.
think that's the God phone. I think that's the God phone, everyone. Hello? It's God. It's God. Uh-huh. Yes. God says hi, everyone. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes, it's wonderful. I know. I'm so very grateful. Will's right here. He is so here. I know. This is our 4th show. Yes. Thank you for being so present every step of the way. I'm so grateful. Oh, you do? Oh my God. God wants us to talk about A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
And talk about our favorite lessons to
Sure.
this day. Okay. Oh, but before, God wants to have a quick word with you.
Okay. God? Okay. I will. I think he's telling me that we have to talk about A Course in Miracles too. I love you too.
Aw.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. Beautiful. So
So
we're
silly. I love it.
So we're definitely going to come back and talk about your level 2, because I know you have some beautiful insights and gifts to give everyone, and that will help. It's like a revelation of how you were guided to use the level 2 symbols to help heal. To help heal. So we're definitely coming back to that. But first, let's take a tangent. Would you like to begin? What's your favorite lesson for now, up to date?
Up to date. Well, see, I have the book right here because
Oh yes,
I love them. But we talked about the first lesson, and I got to the first lesson a year ago. And the first lesson is nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, means anything. So this table does not mean anything. This chair does not mean anything. This Tuesday does not mean anything.
This will does not mean anything.
This hand does not mean anything. And so that's a really weird, strange way to start the lessons, right?
Right.
You're like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? What does it mean?
Right.
So you get your brain going, and you start thinking, but you trust the book and you start with the lesson and you actually do it, which is nothing in this room means anything. So what does that mean, Tuesday?
What that means is that everything is whatever it is, depending on your perception of it. And if we can strip away the meaning that we've given things and that we've been taught that things hold and that have, and allow that to dissolve and dismantle, what we realize, what is truly there, what has always been there, is love, is the presence of love. And it's only our perception, it's only the teachings that we've taken on, those beliefs that we've taken on, to believe that that's a chair and that we can't put our hand through it, or to believe that that's a wall and we can't walk through it, or to believe that if you eat McDonald's you're going to die, or just all these things that we are taught from whatever different spectrums, that those are just thoughts, those are just ideas, those are just beliefs. And so that's the beginning, that first lesson that helps to deconstruct, helps us to start to ignite that deconstructing mentally, because everything is in the mind, and everything, the whole universe is made of the mind. And if you've watched these shows or you follow me, that I talk about the grid, and we won't go deep into that today. But as those grids become dismantled in our mental connections with what we thought was, we begin to have the opportunity to redefine, so that we are given freedom. So if I really, and I don't eat McDonald's, but I remember that there's a part of my book, and so I'm sorry, I'm going to let you talk here again, but in my book, The Reiki Apprentice, that Will was talking about, that embodies my whole spiritual apprenticeship with Reiki and with all the teachings of my teacher. But I was so afraid to use a processed tampon, an inorganic tampon. And there was a point where I'm backpacking in Australia, living in the bush, and I get my period, and it's like, I need to do something here. And I didn't have tissues, I didn't have anything. We're like taking a hike way out, and there's like no electricity. This is before Facebook, Lady Gaga, before Twitter, before flat screen TVs. There was nothing. We were way out in the boonies. And one of the girls in the pack said, "Oh, I have a tampon." And I was like, "Well, what kind is it?" And it was a Tampax. And I was like, "Oh, hell no, girl." And I was so terrified to put something that was processed in my body. I thought I was instantly going to get cancer. It was going to just mess up all my good vibes and all this stuff. And I remember, but I had no choice. I was bleeding. We were miles away from camp, and I needed to help myself. And this is before I learned Reiki, before I did Reiki or anything. And I had to go into the bush and just like come to terms with this tampon and realize like this is the only choice I have. And the lesson there is that I had put so much of my own fears into this thing. I gave it my power. I gave it power over me. And the trick is that when we learn metaphysics, we learn that the observer effect, whatever I decide to choose and see is what is. And this is so interesting you bring this up, because when I talk about my favorite lesson, I'll get into it a little more. And what happens is the metaphysics of this is that it changes. When we can see and hold in our true power and authority what we decide is the truth, metaphysically, it changes the molecular structure of that thing. So I learned, and I still use organic tampons, but when I'm in a pinch and something like that happens, I'm not going to fall to pieces and be like, oh my God, I'm going to die from using a non-organic tampon. I bless it. I put the Reiki on there, and I allow love to be the truth. And so it changes the molecular structure, because what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing and putting in makes it so. And it's my, not only belief, but my knowing beyond belief that allows it to be so. And so I can live in peace, and I don't have to be going around thinking there's this inorganic thing in my body that's going to be toxifying me and threatening my health. So I pray you understand that. And so please.
You weren't looking for the light in a tampon. I know that's kind of a
No.
weird thing to say, but
Yeah.
You were looking at only the possible side effects and the badness that could happen.
It was a total threat to me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does that lesson mean to you?
What it means to me now is the donut shape of our mind and the world that we see. The world that we see around us is only a co-creative hologram that we're making together, and it's only the reflections of what we think on the inside, because we are perceiving machines. That's all we are. Our eyes and our ears, we can only perceive the energies around us. That aside, what it means to me now is I see a meaningless world because only love exists. I'm getting off a little bit here.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Yes. In the Course in Miracles, a meaningless world is the world. It is basically, what I love is the introduction. What is the introduction?
Oh, yeah.
Will you find the page?
Yeah, it's nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists.
Okay,
Therein lies the peace of God.
Let's say it again. Nothing.
Oh,
no. And I swear, I learned this off like a mantra,
yeah,
and then it goes out of my head.
There it is. What it says. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists.
Herein lies the peace of God. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. So according to the Course in Miracles, everything unreal is anything rooted in fear. Anytime you have any kind of a limiting scarcity, lack mentality, whether it's about time, money, other people, through judgments and perceptions, anytime you're creating any kind of a fear-based reality, that's unreal. Period. And only that which is rooted in love and which brings you peace when you think about it, when you speak about it, that's the truth. Period. So that's powerful. And I feel like that's the meaningless world, is that which is unreal.
And the lesson that I came to today kind of helps you to that with, God did not create a meaningless world. Love did not create a meaningless world. Love did not create the world that we see around us. Love is the connection that we feel, those joyous, amazing connections that we feel with one another. With one another. That is real.
Right.
That connection.
Right. Yes. And I had a thought, and now it's gone. Ooh, where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to segue. So my favorite, my go-to lesson, I believe it's 153.
Yes. What is your favorite lesson?
It's in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So the meaningless world thing, and I remember there's a part in A Course in Miracles that talks about saving the world. And I was like, what is this? Is this some like TV show? I was a little bit, not cynical, but I had some resistances when I first came into A Course in Miracles studies, and I was challenged by some of the teachings.
Yeah.
And the God and the
he.
Yeah. It's very old school Christian, kind of the writing is very biblical in a way that it talks about God as a he, even though our teacher, Constance, would say God does not have genitals, right? The God in Course in Miracles does not have genitals. It is not a he or a she. It doesn't have a body. It is beyond all that. Yet in the teachings in the book, it refers to God as he. And I remember we came up into a teaching that was like, about us saving the world. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why do we have to save the world if the world is already perfect and it's only love? And what I got is I'm like, oh, it's our perception. Right? That's how we save the world. We save our own selves. We save our own world by placing love there, by seeing love. And in that way, when we do that, love is, when we allow that. And that brings me to my lesson. So in my defenselessness, my safety lies. This is a big one. As being a victim, woohoo! Being a victim my whole life, as I said before, up until like just a couple years ago, I still lived in victim mentality. I thought that I had to walk through this world with so many defenses. I walked with so many heavy shields of protection because I was afraid. I was afraid. And I love you, Grandma. And our family give us gifts when we're young or throughout our lives because they're trying to do the best for us. They're trying to serve us. And as a youth, 5 years old, for many, many years of my young life, my grandma would tell me, every time a man looks you in the eyes, he wants sex. And I didn't even know what sex was. I didn't even know what any of that stuff was. But I knew it was hard. I knew it was heavy. I knew it was bad. I knew it was something to be terrified of. So from that point on, my entire life, that just screwed me up when it came to sex, my own sexuality, men in general. I just didn't even know how to explore dynamics and be relaxed in my sexuality and to embody my sensuality and to feel safe, because I took her offering and it got planted in the seed of me is that anytime you're around men, basically you are unsafe. And so this took, my whole life walking with shields and my weight issues for years back and forth. Anyway, you'll read the book. It's all in there. But so then that was my thing with Reiki, is what I realized as I became to be attuned and learned how to place love and heal my life, is that I couldn't walk with those shields anymore. If I was going to choose love, if I was going to heal my heart and forgive others, I could not walk with all those heavy shields. And by the way, they were distorting, like that tar body, it was distorting my vision of what the truth is. That is love, and that I was safe, and that I am safe. So when we came to this lesson, in my defenselessness, my safety lies, the first thing I thought about was this shamanic teaching. So years ago, I began studying shamanism and tapping into it, and as a grid that I feel deeply rooted in from many, many past lives. And what I came to, this beautiful saying, is our environment is alive and reacts to our perception of it. Our environment is alive and reacts to our perception of it. And when I read that, it totally made sense. And each lesson has, there's a page or a paragraph that helps you to get deeper into the insight in the lesson. But I realized that I'm projecting, I'm perceiving threats everywhere I go. And so I'm having to hold these shields up everywhere I go. And meanwhile, it takes so much energy to do that. And you're giving your power away to other people, and you're judging, and you're putting fear up everywhere. And basically you're the one, again, who puts yourself in the straitjacket, because, or you let go and you dissolve that, you dismantle it through choosing love. There's the siren out there. Whoop, whoop, love is the truth. So that lesson helped me to remember that shamanic thing of like, yeah, whatever I choose to see is what is. And it helped me to resolve my projections, my judgments, and my perceptions about every single man in the world, whether they were gay, straight, blah, blah, blah. It's like there was family members, like all that stuff. It's so deep how all that stuff infiltrates, all those levels of being. And it helped me to unravel those untruths so that I could relax, which is our first key in Heaven on Earth teachings that I look forward to sharing more of you with, so that I could relax. And again, embody that heaven on earth peace of mind, so that I could forgive, so I could choose compassion towards myself and others. And in that way, clear that space so that that love and that light could have a direct connect to me and me to it. And that became strengthened and strengthened and fortified over time. And now, you know, because back in the 90s, when I was really, I started meditating when I was 16, doing yoga intensively when I was 21, and my spiritual path has been just growing exponentially. But I remember in the 90s, the whole, like that whole decade, the whole thing in the spiritual new age world was protection. You need this necklace for protection. You need this bracelet for protection. You need this tattoo for protection.
You need hematite.
You need all this stuff for protection, protection, protection. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And that's how we did our spiritual dance. Cut to Course of Miracles is like, honey child, protection is an illusion. You know, as long as you think you need protection, you will need protection. But as you move outside of that paradigm, you drop your shields. And granted, it is an initiation to learn how to walk in the world without the tars, to learn how to walk in the world without the fears, without those shields, right? And that's an apprenticeship in itself, to learn to lay your sword down, lay your shields down, and to walk defenselessness. And that is your ultimate safety. Because if I don't have any projections that I'm putting onto you or you or you, and thinking that I have something to fear, if I don't carry that, then that's the metaphysics of that energy creates through the observer effect. That is scientifically, it's like a quantum physics scientific thing that's proven. What I see is what is going to be generated for my vision, as you were saying with the hologram.
You hold your shields up and you can't project you can't allow your light to be seen either. Mm-hmm.
Word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, you wanted to talk about the using Reiki on specifically?
Let's go back. So, please, tell us now, because if you've been on and off using crystal meth for 15 years, mm-hmm. and you look very healthy, you have all your hair in your teeth. I know people who have used and it's messed them up, you know, like fully.
Well, especially for the last year of it, it has been a binge and clean, binge and clean, binge and clean. It would be I want this out of my life, and then patterns would start repeating with boredom, or you know, any number of triggers or reasons, or self-loathing, self-sabotage. Yes. I would start to repeat patterns, and I started to realize what repeating patterns meant, what that meant for me, and I started to really take a look from a higher perspective at the grids, and seeing each time I plucked one of those grids, it would vibrate just like a spider web and recollect it with all of those other thoughts that have ever been, and all those past me's that have ever done. And so I would be hooked into that grid, and I would feel that need and desire to use from that connection. And, you know, helping Tuesdays helped me to learn how to cut cords in meditation, you know, and really just cut cords, you know, and physical life too. You know, we talk about 3D versus 5D and meditation versus, but you know, it's all the same thing. It's all just one piece. Anyway, what I really wanted to share today was my personal tools that I use in addiction. And we're not getting rid of addictions. We are empowering ourselves to no longer allow it to control us. Allow those people, places, and things to control our actions through fear-based actions, and instead of love. Tuesday once told me, when I have an emotional reaction to something, and we were talking about one of my friends who did not see me. Once my second attunement came through, I saw him, and we had an enormous fight. I had just come out of an attunement, and I came to the point of smashing a mirror on the wall. I'm not a violent person. I'm a very happy-go-lucky, you know, nice person, but I brought myself, I gotta use the correct words, to the point of anger that I smashed a window. I was shown how easily I was triggered. I was shown how easily those grids were activated, and I needed to change that. And so what I did was took her advice, and I used the Sehi key, and I think you have a picture of the Sehi key. When you first are tuned in level 1, you receive the Chokure, which I think everybody knows the Chokure. It's on your little intro, the Chokure. This is the Seihiki, the second symbol. This represents healing in the emotional body. And this is the Hanshaze Shonen, which represents healing in the mental body, your thought pattern. So I would get triggered. I would see a boy that I thought was really hot walking down the street. And so I would get triggered with, self-doubt. He's never going to like me. I'm 35 years old. He's 26 years. And then I'd get triggered. Oh, I really just want to relax from this. And, no one's ever going to love me. I want to use now. I want to get high. And I did. And with this level 2 coming in, that mirror is still there. So you can't escape. I was not able to escape in the same way that I was before, because I was escaping just to shut off all the world.
Escaping by using.
Escaping by using.
Okay. And
then I had that mirror there, was like, nope, this is you. This is you on drugs. This is how much you're not allowing yourself to love. Wow. You can't love here. You are not connected here when you use. So use again. I will be here to show you that you cannot lie, that you cannot show your light. This was not anything that Reiki was doing to punish me. This was Reiki simply, just like in the Course in Miracles, it says, I cannot correct your, I will not stop you from your illusions. I will not stop you from creating your illusions, but if you will allow me, I will show you that they are illusions. So that's what Reiki was doing for me. In my experience, was each time I would use, I would have that same conscious mirror, almost like a chaperone or a parent or teacher who was very wise, an inner guru. I was sort of installed with an inner guru, an inner teacher for myself. And all that is remembering that I am the master on the inside.
Woo!
And we all are the master. We are all the shaman, on the inside. All we have to do is become aware of it. But specifically, 3D, in the moment, in the now, when you have that burning sensation, and I feel it right here at the top of my stomach, it's that burning desire of, gotta get out, gotta go, gotta change, gotta do something, in the past, I know what I've done, and that is to use crystal methamphetamine to have fun. And I would allow that to take me down the road of use in the past.
That trigger.
That trigger.
Okay.
However, that mirror is there, and that mirror was enough for me to stop me before I would use. So I would go, no, because I know what's going to happen if I do. I'm going to go all the way down that karmic path.
Because you're feeding the tar body.
Right. I'm going to go all the way back there and have to get there, and then have to come all the way back up the hill. Which was a beautiful story. All of those were beautiful stories, and they will be put in books, movie stories, and blah blah blah. Okay. But in the moment, when I felt and I saw the reflection, don't do it. All right. So how do I get rid of this feeling? I don't want to feel this way about this person. I want to be able to walk down the street and feel attraction for a guy and just have that be attraction, or walk down the street and see my friend who I used to use with, and just see them as a person, and see them as myself, as love, instead of seeing use, instead of seeing drugs, instead of seeing the past. So I take the Seihiki and I draw it. I draw the symbol with my chakra point here, the Seihiki, and then I take it, and inside my mind, I go inside myself, and I take it and I use it like a sponge. And this is my own personal way of using it for this specific way. And I scrub until that feeling is gone. I scrub the inside lining of my stomach where I feel that emotion. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing myself back to center. As I'm doing it, I'm bringing myself back to center, and I'm releasing those emotions, because they're not real. They're not me. Once I'm centered and I have that, I think, okay, what caused that? And I think of that emotion, and what will happen is that same trigger will start again, but you've already got it. You got it control of it, because you're going there. You're going there. And once you have that vibration, that one thought that is not you, that is not love, that you've pinpointed, you mark it, with the Han Shazei Shonen right here. If you were so guided to become attuned in Reiki and want to follow this way. The Han Shazei Shonen rocks. It is love beyond boundaries. It is love beyond time and space. It is the wholeness, the allness of love. And that what I'm doing is marking that with love that reaches beyond the bounds of time and space.
So what you're doing is you're using those symbols, which is a beautiful recipe that anyone can use if they're attuned, especially.
And I would really say get attuned in Reiki before you start drawing these symbols, you know, and really do any research before you start drawing these symbols. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's okay. And so that you would use these to create the healing within yourself. You would, perhaps in an area where you were unconscious before, of the connection between seeing the guy and your own self-limiting, self-doubt stuff, and then going spiraling into, let me take crystal meth to kind of numb it out or to feel better about myself or whatever all that stuff is. You were beginning to become conscious and you'd see it, and you were attuned with Reiki, and you said, okay, how can I help heal myself? And then the divine came and gave you this divine insight to scrub with the Seihi Ki and then to place the Hanshitze Shonen, which helps to disband and balance and heal for that time and space, that level of trigger that would otherwise have you go take and use.
Exactly.
Right. And so little by little, then you use that often. Every time you get the urge, for the most part, you use that little tool.
It is, yes.
Right?
And I'm starting to move on to other things in my life that could use some healing. Right now, I smoke marijuana. As many people do, I know. I love marijuana. And I smoke cigarettes, and I love the time when I'm out. I don't like the way it makes me smell or anything, but I love the time when going in and have a cigarette. It's almost like meditation. But I know that those are two things that still have hooks in me, and I'm using them as crutches at the moment to help me get past the lingering desires for the crystal meth. And then it's beautiful that I can sort of say, all right, maybe it's time to start healing this place. The key is I'm not hacking things out of my brain in my life. I'm not saying no more of this and no more of that, and I don't want this and I don't want that. What I'm doing is I'm taking these things in the world that I thought and projected them on, and I'm healing them. I'm healing my mind and my thoughts about them so that they no longer have control over me, and so that I can ring true.
What a beautiful blessing. And I want to ask you, we're going to close up here shortly, but I did want to ask you, when's the last time you used? Because you did say that you're not, that you were using, or that Reiki was using you or something, not to necessarily at this point to cut use out completely, but as a way that you, and these are my own words, as a way that you were learning to manage and heal that addiction path. Right.
Reiki doesn't care about any of this, you know, it just cares about my feeling in this moment and healing in this moment, in my thought. The last time I used was 2.5 months ago now, I think.
Wow. Is that the longest that it's been in a while?
In a while. Long while.
All right. High five. That's amazing.
Actually, high five.
Yeah. Woo! Okay. That's cool.
And it has been inexplicable other than what I have just explained.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I just want to say that you are now a Reiki master. You've been attuned all the way through your Daikomyo and your Raku, and now you're on this next level of your path of healing, self-mastery, and attunement to the divine, to holding space as love and only love. And
so much fun.
And so much fun.
And
that's
so
good.
Much fun, yeah.
That's great to tell everyone about that, how fun it is.
I have had a amazing past week and a half or 2 weeks. I had a friend go into the hospital here in Palm Springs, and I was in Auburn, Alabama, and I put Palm Springs behind me. You know,
I thought I was never going to see him again, but we talked on the phone all the time. We did emails.
And it was that horrible cat box that I walked in the desert for 1.5 years and had all these horrible experiences. And it was a place where I did heal a lot, but my family's in Alabama, so I didn't really think I was coming back here anytime soon. and I had this friend go into the hospital like this, and it was because of multiple reasons. I think that I'm going to come in here and come back to Palm Springs, and Tuesday and I are going to rush in, and we're going to do Reiki, and we're going to
save the world.
Save the world.
Right, right.
And at the same time, we're like, all right, I know that's not how it's going to happen, but that's what I will be open to is sharing Reiki. And Reiki just wanted me to get here to Palm Springs, I guess, or the universe just wanted me to get here to Palm Springs, because I get here and I don't get to see him at all, and I have to release that fact.
His friend was in the hospital. Yeah. And
it's a whole long story, but it basically the point is why I came here. The impetus in bringing here is not what was worth coming here for. What was worth coming here for was seeing the area that I was in, Palm Springs, this wonderful place, with fresh, clear eyes that looked for love.
And you know, because of all that drama and trauma and the heavy crystal meth addiction and all the people and places on this street,
on this street,
and in this neighborhood, and just in this little
in the
town,
gay community,
you had so many grids intersecting and connecting you to that and that version of who you were. And now even though you still use from time to time, you've bumped up your frequency, you've cleaned up, you've healed so many of the root issues that had those triggers to you using, that now, isn't it beautiful? You are here and you get to see yourself in this new light, and you get to walk without those shields, and you have all these tools now to be in the presence of. And I think it's interesting that since you've been back, I know that you said when you first got here, you just got on a plane and you came out here just hoping to see your friend and who was in the hospital and emotional and wanting to just connect and give that love. And of course, as you said, the universe had a different idea about things, but that you were first, you didn't even know where you were going to stay. And you stayed with the first friend who was very kind, but they were still using. And so you had to be in the presence of that reflection in a way and be there. And you didn't use with him because it's been 2.5 weeks. So and that was just a week ago.
Right.
And then isn't that beautiful that you sustained that fortitude and that strength and that love and that light of just saying, having the willpower to say, no, thank you. This is not correct for me now. And it then took you into a home now where you're staying for your stay, however long that is here, that is clean.
Which is also
down the street, up the hill, actually, like probably not even 200 feet away.
Yeah, I mean,
it's bizarre. I love it.
It's really strange, and the tar body loves to latch on to these little synchronicities and turn them into dark synchronicities or conspiracy-driven synchronicities. When it's just synchronicity, it's just the world.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to be here. Since coming here, I have felt an immeasurable sense of release and peace from fear.
Woo! And isn't that that's what it's all about? That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. So in closing, I would just like to ask, I know that you spoke of Reiki and you are attuned, you're a Reiki master now, walking with that. But for those that are not attuned out there, going through any level of addiction, because ultimately addiction is addiction, no matter the substance, again, whether it's a thought, whether it's substance that we put into our body, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. For those that are not attuned with Reiki, what is your guidance for them as you've been walking this path? What little insight can you offer them so that they can help heal their lives and come into greater peace with their addiction specifically?
The addiction specifically.
But outside of Reiki.
Outside of Reiki, yeah. I use chanting. I connected very much with music. Addictions can take up all your time. It takes up all your time, and it takes all the joy away. And my joy is music. My joy is performance and art, and it is my ultimate excitement. It is my ultimate joy, and it's something I've rediscovered in this past half year. Is how much I love to sing and whistle and play the piano and write musicals.
So when those
find your joy, find your high, like Bashar says, find your highest excitement,
and let that be your high.
Let that be your high, because It really is.
Beautiful.
It really is.
Beautiful.
To the point where I am not triggered. I'm not triggered by the sex. I'm not triggered by other men. I'm not triggered by anything that would make me want to use crystal meth more than stay connected to God.
Woo! Isn't that beautiful? And as we say around here, that's one way that you feed the light body and starve the tar body. Feed the light body, starve the tar body.
It's tough.
It's tough, but it's work, but it's worth it, because ultimately it's your peace of mind. It's your heaven on earth. It's your freedom, and it's your strength. It's your power, you know, that to place love and to be love and to embody that. And ultimately, then you can relax and the world becomes a beautiful place to be, rather than somewhere you have to warrior and fight your way through every step of the way. Thank you so much for being here. I feel so very blessed. I love you dearly, and I'm so grateful for our relationship and all the healing that we share together. Thank you for being on this show, 4D Trinity. Again, this is Will Harrell, and maybe we'll have it divinely aligned that you can come back another time.
Sure.
And we'll talk more on all these modalities and such.
Thank you, Tuesday. Thank you. I think I speak for everyone who's watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. So for all those watching, do stay tuned next week. I'm going to be talking about spiritual weight loss. What? Yes, honey, spiritual weight loss, and how to attune and align consciously through the multidimensional levels of you, so that you can begin to work out the deeper issues of why you're holding weight, of why you can't release weight in the physical body. We're going to get into your multidimensional being and bless it and heal it. Please let me know if you have specific questions regarding next week's show, where we'll be talking about spiritual weight loss. My email address is in the description box below this. So send me an email and let me know if you have a specific question. I would love to dive deep into this. And I know I see a few people are here. Please let us know. I know there's a few second delay that you've been here with us. Write a little something in the comment box. I'm so grateful. And I just want to thank all the new subscribers to this channel and all of my loyal subscribers and those viewers, and know that if you can't make the live stream, you can come back, watch reruns anytime. If you dig what we're sharing here, what I offer, please do hit the subscribe button, and know that all the links for my books are also down in the description box. Join my mailing list by going to my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com. And get your free book, The Higher Self. It's a free mini ebook, The Higher Self, Blueprint of Mastery. And that'll clue you in, especially if this language is a new language for you, but it resonates. It will help to illumine your path in understanding who you are and how to navigate this world as your higher self. It's totally free, and in that way you will be connected to me. And I send out a love letter once or twice a month with my blogs and info on my books and teachings. I'm so very grateful for everyone always joining me. I thank you for your support, and thank you again, Will.
The Nowosphere.
The Nowosphere. Oh yeah, the Nowosphere.
Yeah, if you're having problems with addictions, the Nowosphere is a wonderful, wonderful book.
Thank you for that plug. The Nowosphere is free on iBooks, and if you have iBooks, it's actually really beautiful. The art that I was able to put in the iBook version, the Kindle doesn't have the art, but either way, it has the words, and that's the most important thing. And yes, I say it's for empaths, addicts, and sensitives, anyone that feels sensitive, because it's the Nowosphere, understanding your spiritual sensitivity. So often we go onto a spiritual path and we think it's just going to be a healing run through a field of lavender and it's all going to be great. And then we stumble into the tar body, we stumble into our shadows and those things that we get to work out on the way of apprenticing into our greater love and light. And the Nowosphere, again, gives us a beautiful insight and a new language. That's what I'm here to do, is I'm here to demonstrate and offer a new language and a new way that we can understand ourselves on a multidimensional level and learn self-mastery ultimately, that we can live in peace and that we can bridge heaven on earth. Heaven on earth is here now. 4D Trinity, that's what it's all about. Yes, 5D, yes, 6D, any Ds that you want. The 4D is where the heart is. And unless we learn how to be down with the heart and down with the love, and that we can relax in that place of love, what are the other Ds for, if not? Right? So let's bridge through the heart, connect mind, body, and spirit through that Trinity. Thank you so much. I bless you, and I thank you for watching. And we're going to take you out with our little intro outro. So many blessings and namaste, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.